Hey everybody, JJ here, back again for another Wednesday of Zoom networking. Boy, do we have a guest speaker for you today. I met this gentleman, this young man, almost 3 years ago, and I found out really, really quickly that he's a phenomenal person. He was in Southern California for a huge, huge event, and little did I know that the young man I was being introduced to was the keynote speaker for that entire event. Um, he's just a great guy. He's a family man. He's an investor, successful entrepreneur, has his own education platform, coaching and teaching and providing value. I'd like to introduce my good friend, Mr. Bill Allen. Bill, how are you?
Good, JJ. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. I'm excited to have you on. Hey, for those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
I live just south of Nashville, Tennessee. So in a little town called Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Wow. And as we all know, that's a beautiful part of the country and the place where I'm hoping to get to one day, hopefully sooner than later. Um, you know, let's chat about you for a second. You're a pilot, which I
Yep.
found out, which I think is really cool. Now, how big of planes you fly the four seaters and bigger six? How big of a plane do you fly?
I have a six-seat plane right now. It's a big six-seater. So it goes up to 31,000 feet, does 310 knots. It's a nice plane. Before that, I had a Bonanza A36, was a little six-seater. And then I flew for 20 years for the Navy. I flew helicopters and airplanes. So a lot of trainers. And the H-60, I was actually stationed in San Diego and Coronado. I flew there. So a lot of Southern California people on here, I think. So I've lived there.
Wow.
I was born in San Diego, grew up in Thousand Oaks for half my life, and then got stationed back out there after flight school. It was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. So did you go right into the military out of high school? Was your path, or did you?
No, I went to Georgia Tech. So I see a guy from Georgia here. He's got a 678 number, Edgar, like me. I went to Georgia Tech for 5 years. I got commissioned into the Navy. And then I went up to Air Force Institute of Technology for a year at grad school. And then I went to flight school after that. So
So you're a
I,
yellow jacket.
I'm a hell of an engineer. That's right.
There you go, man. Hey,
Yeah.
real estate is obviously how you and I met. Um, and you become an engineer, a pilot, have served for our country, and thank you for your service.
Welcome.
Um, how did you make that transition to real estate? Like what growing up as a kid, was your dad a contractor, mom an agent? Did something on the landscape for you, or did it come across later? And how did you get into real estate?
Yeah, my dad was an electrical engineer. He was on submarines, so he was a submariner when I was a kid. He got out of the military like shortly after I was born and went in the reserves. And he retired after 28 years. So he retired one rank above me. So he's still kind of holding that over my head. I did more active duty time, but he was a higher rank. So they weren't in real estate. My mom was like she was in sales. She went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, so she was into fashion in New York City for a while. Then was in like retail sales, and then she just like became a mom, and then worked at our middle school when I was a kid. We didn't have a ton of money growing up, and my dad started his own engineering company from the basement. So no real estate. I mean, the only real estate we ever owned was the house we lived in, and I'm not even sure how we paid the mortgage on that actually when I was a kid. It was always a stretch. So I got interested in real estate because I was always like save your way to become a millionaire. I was like, I would save a ton of money when I was a kid. So I was always interested in money and like flipping stuff. I was flipping candy and flipping baseball cards and then flipping my time like mowing lawns and shoveling driveways and stuff. And so I really love money. And I was always I want to be a millionaire one day. I thought like did all the math when I was 65, I'd become a millionaire. And as long as I save a percentage of my income. And then I bought. I had a guy in my ROTC, the commanding officer at Georgia Tech ROTC. He said he bought a house at every duty station he ever lived in, and he never lost money. And then so in 2006, I bought a condo in Pacific Beach, one block from the ocean, for $385,000, and I sold it in 2010 for $200,000. So, and I was losing like $850 a month on that thing, renting it out when I moved to Pensacola. And so he lied to me. You can buy real estate and lose money. But fortunately, there was a government bailout called Housing Assistance Program, HAP. And so they bailed me out. So the $200,000 sale, I basically broke even. on the house, and I got to start over. Because if you bought your house at a certain time during the real estate boom and then were forced to move during the crash, then they had this program that you apply to, they'll bail you out. And so that was cool. So then I bought another house in Pensacola before I sold that one. I sold a car to buy that house, put a down payment on it. And I was tracking my net worth every month. So I would save like 60% of my salary. I'm really cheap guy. Like I spend money now, but for 20 years, I didn't spend any money. I was just really frugal, thrifty, cheap, whatever you want to call me. I just wouldn't spend a lot of money. I saved everything and I would invest it all. And it was in the stock market for a long time. And so I was tracking my net worth, and I promise you I'll get to how I found real estate. I was tracking my net worth, and what I noticed was my net worth every month when it would go up, I would have a note section that I write what I did that month. And that rental property kept going up in equity. Like I would look at the value of that house and it kept going up. And I was making like $500 a month in cash flow renting it out, but it was going up in equity and my net worth was climbing faster than it was in the stock market. So I was like, man, there's something here. So I bought a second rental house. And then I bought a third rental house, and my agent told me that, if you flip this, if you fix it up and sell it, you can make a lot of money. So she wanted a second commission, but it was going to be a rental house. And so I did it. I made $43,000. And that was like half of my income for the whole year as a pilot. And I was like hooked. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, so I just took my money out of the stock market and like dumped it all into real estate over the next like 10 years after that. So I bought my first real rental house in like 2009, but I lived in there for 2 years. So I really didn't start renting it out till 2011. So I'm about at like 12 or 13 years into a real estate journey. And I built a business that we were flipping and wholesaling like 200 houses a year for every year for a few years. So I've probably done over 1,000 houses in the past 8 years or so. My company, like I haven't walked into 1,000 houses myself. But it's completely changed my entire life, like financially and like my knowledge, experience, skill set, all those things.
Now, you've gone on to put your own education program, have you not?
Yes. Yeah, but like that's an interesting story because I joined the education program when I was flipping. So I flipped that house. I made $43,000. Then that was in 2013. In 2014, I found another house and I made $45,000 on that one. And then I joined a coaching program. It was like $25,000. I joined this mastermind called Seven Figure Flipping. It was brand new in 2015. And I did 67 houses the first year in about like 8 months after joining that. And then I became one of the coaches like a year and a half into that. And then I became the COO after another year. And then I bought the company from Justin Williams, who some of you may know in California. He was the guy who started the company. So I didn't start the education company. I was going to go either do my own thing or just kind of join forces there. And I eventually ended up buying the company. So for the last like 5.5 years, I've been running a company called Seven Figure Flipping, which is an education program. We do like courses, events, trainings, those kind of things, have masterminds and coaching programs. So I didn't start that from scratch. I'm like the CEO and the owner, but I'm not necessarily the founder of that company. I have rebranded it. I've made some adjustments, done a lot of things, but yeah, I run that as well as a few other things.
Well, and you're running it with stability and credibility, and wherever it was, you've obviously taken this step up, and you just continued it. And now that's part of your brand. That's people hear Seven Figure Flipping, they think Bill Allen.
Well, I mean, the hard part, the real bad part is most people don't know who I am or what it is. So that's what I've been on the mission for the last year to do, is to, educate people on who I am, what Seven Figure Flipping is, because that's the biggest problem that we have is, you have a great product, but you're living in obscurity. Like nobody knows who you are or what you do. And so I think we have a phenomenal product, one of the best products on the planet. And we might be best, but we're not best known. So that's the real challenge. And there's a lot of people that are best known that have a crappy product that are selling way more than us. And so that's kind of the mission. And JJ, real quick before we move on, I never really say like we're better or bigger or it's better than it was before, because it was really awesome the way it was before. Like it's different than it was before. I agree that we're different, but like that would do Justin a disservice, I think, if I said like it's so much better than it was then, or it's just different. Like we have a little bit different program. Mm-hmm. Justin ran a phenomenal company. It was really incredible. I really enjoyed being a part of it and working there and being his COO. And so I think a lot of times I I kind of talk about how like we've grown it and scaled it and done these things, but like it was really great then. And I don't want to give him any discredit because he did such a great job. I mean,
Oh no,
he put in blood, sweat, and tears for like 6, 7 years before anybody even heard of seven figure flipping.
there you
So
go.
I'm kind of on his back, you know? So
Yeah, and if anything, I'm just being a little bit biased and partial towards you because I know you, you
yeah,
know, to try and kind of, and I'll just say promote you, and at the end of the call, we'll be able to provide information on how people can reach out to you, how they can find out about seven figure flipping, and be a part of your program.
yeah, I
Um,
appreciate that.
your topic today is raising millions of dollars for deals, and we all know how important raising money is, getting funding, capital. I mean, we all know that's important, but how did you come up with that, or how do you think that sits on the landscape for the new investor today? Do people always understand the importance of it? Maybe they're chasing just a deal without even really realizing the importance of raising money, and you know, how do you want to jump in your topic, Bill? Let's let you have it.
Well, you said a lot of people realize that it's like how important it is. I'm not exactly sure that that's true. Like I really am not sure that's true because I can tell you right now, like if I had $100 million in my pocket right now, I could put it on the street in about 5 seconds. So like it would take zero time for me to put $100 million on the street, maybe $500 million. Like I could probably get $500 million invested in a week right now. And I could also, it would open an insane amount of doors for me if I really had $500 million available to me right now. Like I could get into any room, I could have almost any conversation, I could get a lot of people on the phone, I could get a lot of equity, I could get a lot of pieces of deals, and any deal I wanted, like with the right partners. So I don't know that people like really understand and believe that that's true. And a lot of people like lay down for the lenders and the money. They work so hard to find the deal. They negotiate so hard to find the deal. And they're like, anybody that's going to give me money, I'll pay whatever to get the money. And so like, I really think money, if you have money, you can get anywhere. Like you can get into the right places, you can get into the right deals. You have so many options. And looking back, I feel like that's the skill set that I was able very early on to learn. That has helped me to be able to buy as many houses that I have, flipped as many houses as we have, wholesaled as many, just, being able to raise capital. And really it's not even raising money. It's really having money conversations. Like I'm very comfortable talking about money. Like and ever since I was a little kid, like I was fascinated with money. It was just interesting to me. I always want to turn a dollar into $2. So I think a lot of people think it's like asking for money. It's like begging for loans. It's like those kind of things. It's become, it's like, I don't know, everybody seems to be broke all the time. So it's like, if you can just talk about money, have conversations, get people to open up, it's very interesting that there's a massive opportunity for you when it comes to money. So I don't know that everybody actually believes how important it is, or they would spend a lot more time doing it and honing that skill and getting better at it. Because I'm telling you, if you want to get into multifamily, like big apartments, and you have access to capital, you can get in. Like we have a whole multifamily community. I was just on a call with all of them right before this. Their number one problem is money. My number one problem in multifamily right now is money. I've had to raise $24 million in the last like 4 months. I still have like 8 million to go today, right now, and I have to get this deal closed in like 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. And I have $8 million to raise in 2 weeks. So like if somebody came to me and was like, hey, I can get you $8 million, I'd be like, how can I help you? So even there's levels to all this stuff. And so I think that, and honestly, in the next 2 weeks, what I really should be doing is just raising money, like nothing else. I should just be making calls, talking to people, raising capital. That's it. I should be like, tomorrow, me and my wife are going downtown Nashville to the CMA Fest. And everybody that I talk to there, I'm just gonna be talking about money. Like I'm gonna go to some really nice like restaurants. I'm gonna talk to the bus boy, or the guy who parks the cars, the valet at the hotel we're staying at tomorrow night. I'll be like, hey, do you know anybody with money? Like I need all this stuff. Like that's a target rich environment. I'm going to talk about money. And you better believe I'm gonna be in the suites tomorrow trying to figure out who's got some money and who can deploy it in the next 2 weeks. So I realize I just kind of like went all over the place, but I don't know that people know how important it really is and what opportunities are available for them to do it.
You know,
But
I think from my perspective as a newer investor, I know that when we're coming up, we're chasing leads, and maybe they don't know it's important, but I think it's more about how do I find money?
yeah,
And
well, you know, the biggest problem for newer investors is the biggest problem. They're like, I don't have a deal yet. Why would I raise money if I don't have a deal? And that's the problem. And let me solve it for you. Let me show you how you can raise money when you don't have a deal. We'll go through all the talk tracks. We'll lay it down, and I'll give you like one of my secrets of how I raise money at like very low interest rates. So the first thing is the reason why you're not raising money if you don't have a deal is because you think that you don't want to talk about what you're doing until you're doing it and good at it. So you don't want to tell anybody that you're a real estate investor until you actually do a couple deals. So that's the problem. You think it's like chicken and egg. It's not. Like the second that you've decided to do this, like frankly, you should just take a screenshot of this right now and post it all over your social media and be like, hey, and leverage other people's credibility, other people's experience. Like this is legitimately one where you can be like, hey, I just learned from a guy who raised $50 million in the last 8 years. And you can post about that. You can leverage my audience, my credibility. And if you tag me, I might actually share it on my Facebook wall and places like that. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you can do when you haven't done anything yet in the learning phase. But you have to start branding yourself as somebody to come to talk about money. So what you do is you just talk about your journey, your adventures. I'm learning this. I'm going to be buying houses in so-and-so area. Heidi, 443 number. Is that Maryland? Is that Maryland? 443? Okay. So Heidi's in Maryland. Yeah. So Heidi's in Maryland. I see some SoCal numbers. I see some Atlanta numbers. I grew up in Howard County for the second half of my life. So 443, I recognize that number. So Heidi be like, hey, I'm going to be buying houses to renovate and resell in, I don't know, Frederick, Maryland, or wherever Heidi lives. I have no idea. So like wherever she is, right? And she's going to say, I'm going to be, and not even, you've never done it before. It doesn't matter. Like I'm going to be doing this. I'm looking for houses. If you want to come be a partner with me or partner with me financially on these deals, send me a message. So like in the beginning, and just then you go look at a house, take a picture of yourself out in front of the house and talk about, hey, I got a lead. I'm going to look at this lead today. What do you think of this house? Get people involved in the journey. What you need to do is you need to create the TV show. Like everybody hates their life. They want to watch everybody else's lives today. So let them watch your life, let it unfold in front of their eyes, and start talking about that. So then when somebody messages you and says, hey, I've got some money, I would love to partner with you on a deal. What does that look like? Be like, well, hey, right now I'm looking for deals. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath in this area. I'm going to be renovating it and reselling it. And what I do is I use partners to come in and fund these deals for me. Would that be something that you would be interested in doing? And they say, yes, I would. And then you say, hey, how about we just jump on a call and talk through some of what it might look like? And believe me, in the beginning, you have no idea what that looks like. You're like, I don't know what that looks like. Like, I don't know what interest rate to give them. I don't know. So then on that call, you are a certified financial planner without any letters next to your name. So you're just talking to them about their story. Where's your money now? What are you investing in right now? The exact same conversation that you've been studying to have with the seller, have it with a lender, have it with a money person. So ask them where their money is. Ask them if they're like, oh, my money's in the stock market. Be like, oh, cool. Why don't you just keep it in the stock market? The same thing with somebody saying, hey, I'm looking to sell my house. And you say, why don't you just keep it as a rental property? Why don't you just sell it with an agent? Why did you call me? Same conversation. Does that make sense? So on this side with the lender, you say, where's your money now? Stock market. Why don't you just keep it in the stock market? Stock market's driving me crazy right now. I'm freaking out about the election. I don't know what's going to happen in the stock market. Stock's going to crash. I'm scared. Oh, cool. How much are you thinking about taking out of the stock market? They're like $200,000 at least. And you're like, okay, great. Well, how much have you been making in the stock market? I usually make like 6% or 4% or 8%, whatever they say. Say, okay, great. Well, how much are you thinking about? How much would you like to make in real estate? They're like, I don't know. You're the big shot. You tell me how much I can make. Well, would you be okay making the same 6 or 8% that you're making in the stock market if it was in a better asset in real estate? And like, well, yeah, actually I would. I'd be happy making 8%. Okay. If they say I want to make 15%, you don't want to pay 15%. This is what I say. I say, okay, great. Well, right now I don't have any assets to fund. So there's a couple things I want. I want how much money they want to make. I want to know how much money they have. I want to know the speed at which they can transfer that money. So that question would be something like, well, hey, if you decided to take it out of the stock market and put it into one of my deals, about how long do you think that would take? And let them answer it. And say, oh, I don't know. Like usually I can sell my stocks like today and I can probably transfer that money, like wire it over in a day or two. Okay, great. And would you be comfortable doing something like that? And then so now I've got amount, I've got timeline, I've got an idea of interest rate, even if it's pie in the sky interest rate. And then I would say, hey, you don't get like, a bunch of money in your stocks. So is this money that you like live off of that you need cash flow? Or is this something that you want to grow over time? And they'd be like, oh yeah, it's something that like, I don't take dividends from my stocks. I just reinvest it all. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, would you be interested? Would you be reinvesting your dividends or things like that here? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so if I do a deal and maybe like my deals might take like 6 to 12 months, so you would be okay with me paying you all the interest at the end of the project? They're like, oh yeah, that's no problem. But if they're like, yeah, I only invest in dividend stocks and I use my dividend to pay for my life, then that they might want monthly payments. And so now I'm looking at payment structure. And so from there, then I say, okay, great. It sounds like I have a good picture of what you're looking to do. So I tell you what, this is how it works. When I get a deal, what I do is I have a list of investors. And the list starts at the very top. It's the investor that wants the lowest interest rate. And at the very bottom, it's the investor that wants the most interest. And so I don't pick the interest rate. I just let you guys put whatever you want on there. But I can tell you right now, if you want that 15% that you said, you're probably going to be the last person that I'm going to call when I get a deal. So if you want to if you want me to use your money all the time, I can definitely do it. But somewhere around like 6%, I will call you first every time. So do you think is there any wiggle room in that interest rate? Because look, I want them to make as much money as possible. But I say, yeah, at 15%, I might never call you. If you're okay with that, I'll just keep you on the list. And if I get a deal that I have to fund last minute, maybe I can pay that. But that's going to be kind of past what I think I can do. And that's how I get people from like 15% to like 8% or 9%. And I had people at 4 and 5% for years and years and years. And then, oh, by the way, there was the tip that I learned from somebody else that said, if their money's in CDs or like savings accounts or things like that, and you say, hey, how much is your money making right now? And they say like 2%. Your response should immediately be, what if I could double it? And they're like, take my money. And so that was a Susan Lassiter Lyons quote. She wrote a book called Getting the Money. It's a phenomenal book if you haven't read it. And so I stole that from her. I realized that was kind of a lot, but that's how a newer investor, you can have a conversation without having a deal and get all the information that you need from these people before you have a deal. And you're also not even 100% certain that they're going to fund the deal when you get it. But if you can start having those conversations at the same time that you're looking for properties, that's the way you play this game. Like you want your balance sheet to kind of be even with money and deal flow. Ideally, I'd like to have more money than I have deals. But usually, because the deal is the hardest thing to find today. Yeah. Money's getting a little tighter. Money's getting a little tougher to find right now, for sure, because people don't have a lot of it. Yeah.
Hey, Bill, we had a question in the chat, and I kind of wanted to ask it as well and type it out for myself. What again is the title of that book, and who is it?
Yeah, it's called Getting the Money by Susan Lassiter Lyons. She's there in California. She's great. She spoke at my conference in 2020. She's incredible.
Okay, I am.
The majority of the foundational knowledge that I built on money came from reading that book. That book was instrumental in my growth that I read 8 years ago, just stumbling across it. So it's an older book, but the concepts are right there. And what I love about her is very much the kind of where I take it is I'm going to be me. I'm going to have shorts, a sweatshirt, and flip-flops on. Mm-hmm. And she talks about going into a Mexican restaurant and drinking a margarita while she meets with her investors, not being anyone that she's not faking it, just being herself. Yeah, and
so important.
And also removing this this like secret identity she talks about, like actually telling people what you're doing. Like, don't be like, you don't have to make it before you start talking about it. Like, if you got to talk about it, like document. So I've taken it a step further. So like document the process as you're building your business, as you're getting started. Anytime you're on one of these calls, everybody's like, I need more content. Like, this is content right here. Just take a picture and tell a story about what you learned today and borrow other people's credibility. You use this stuff. You don't have to, like, your life is what people want to know about. They're interested in that. You're interesting. And so just talk about what you do, share these things. And the other thing is, like, when you're starting to do that, let's say you got 100 people watched one of your videos. So 100 people watch your videos and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I should have 1,000 people watching my videos. I should have 500 people watching. I had 300 people watching last time. Like, nobody's watching my videos. Well, imagine that you had a conference room and there were 100 people in there listening to what you had to say. I bet you'd be a lot happier that 100 people showed up in person to listen to you. And that's what's happening online. Like, there's thousands of people. Like, I got a video on Instagram right now. It's like, or TikTok, just like 3.1 million views. I was like, 3.1 million people saw my face? That's insane. Like, and even like 10,000, 20,000, like, I can't even imagine, if you put that many people in a room, you can't fathom it. And even if it's just 50 people or 25 people, like, don't get discouraged when 25 people are watching your videos. Like, if you put 25 people in a room right now, in your room, the room you're in, I bet you'd talk to them for a while. Like, you'd be blown away that 25 people want to come listen to you speak. So hopefully that gives you a little encouragement.
Oh yeah, I was actually at an event last night, and they had about 60 people. And at one point in time, I was talking to about 15 new students. And for me, just talking to one person is cool. Talking to a number of people, just reaching out, making the personal connection is huge. Tim Clark, you are on with Bill Allen. What's your question?
Hey guys. Yeah, hey Bill, I got a question for you. I'm getting into the whole real estate investing space here. I'm a Gator and Pace Morby's community. And I guess my question is very specific about, like, when you're talking to people and you're asking them if they want to invest and you're putting them on a list, when the rubber meets the road and you actually have them invest that money, are they sending money to you through a fund, or are they sending the money directly to escrow for a particular real estate deal?
Yeah, so there's many different ways that you can do this. Are we talking about single family deal here? Like a single family house?
It could be. Yeah, let's keep it simple and say we're talking about a single family deal.
Okay, so there's a couple ways. So there's to keep it really simple, there's a secured and unsecured investment. So a secured investment, either one's going to have what's called a promissory note.
Right.
So a note of some sort is just an IOU. So it's like a promissory. And by the way, I'm not an attorney, a CPA. This is not legal advice, all that stuff, all the things I need to say. So there's inside of there's a promissory note, and that note says, usually it's like the terms. So it's the length of time, it's an interest rate, it's how the payments are going to be structured. There's extensions. Typically, like, hey, if I don't meet this deadline, I'm going to get this fee afterwards, penalties, those kind of things. So it's basically the instrument that says I owe you money. It's the IOU. So if I lend you $100,000, you give me a note that says I owe you $100,000, and that's either written to you, Tim Clark, or to your LLC or whatever entity that I'm investing in. And then so that's unsecured. So that's an IOU, not secured to anything. Right? And then if I want to secure it to something, so the security document is then giving me some leverage over you, Tim, because that promissory note that you give to me is basically an IOU, and then I got to come after you for that $100,000 if you don't pay me back. So you could sell the house that I'm invested in and not pay me my money and be like, hey, Bill, sorry, come get it. And then I have to get an attorney and I have to sue you to try to get my $100,000. Now, you could do a personal guarantee to give them a little bit more security. So something that a little bit more like security might not be the word, but it's like a little bit more of like Tim Clark saying, hey, I'm also going to personally guarantee this note. So it's usually like, I'm doing a loan to your LLC that's owned by you, but your LLC could go bankrupt, but you give me a personal guarantee that says, if my LLC goes out of business, I, Tim Clark, am also going to be responsible to pay you. And so that would be like next step, potentially. And then the next level is a security agreement, which is like a mortgage or a deed of trust, depending on what kind of state you're in. So a judicial or non-judicial state. So I don't know where all of you guys live in different areas. So there's deed of trust states and there's mortgage states. So it's a security document that attaches it to a property. So then, Tim, I would get my $100,000 note from you, and I would also get either first position, second position, third position, fourth position, get some security in the property, if you wanted to do that for me. And so what that does, if I'm in first position, that means I get my money first. So when you sell the house, I get my money first, and the escrow company, the title company, the attorney, they have to pay my $100,000 when you close the deal to get rid of that lien that's on the property, which is a mortgage or deed of trust. And then you could put somebody in second position. You could put somebody in third. You could put somebody in fourth, fifth. I mean, you just keep stacking the people if you want to on top of that. But they go down in seniority as they get up in numbers. So I'll give you an example. I did a $30,000 loan for somebody in second position one time, and they got foreclosed on, and the first position hard money lender wiped away all the equity, and there was none left for me. So I lost my $30,000.
Yep.
But they got all their money. So, I mean, that's the danger of being in second position. So those are a bunch of different ways. And then you asked me, like, do I send it to you personally, or I send it to the escrow company or title company or attorney? Yeah. If I was lending to you, Tim Clark, I'm going to get a first position mortgage on your property, and I'm going to send it to the title company, the escrow company, or the mortgage or the attorney. There are plenty of people that will just do a promissory note unsecured and send it to you, and then you use it as you need to. So I also have some other deals that I do. Like I have a business in Kentucky where we buy houses, we fix them up, we sell them on owner financing. And so my lenders send that money directly to my LLC, and then I close the transaction myself. Mm-hmm. That's higher levels of trust. Yes. That's deeper relationships that I have with them. That's the fact that I'm running a legitimate business and I know what I'm doing, and I'm not over leveraging and over debting my company so that we're upside down. So unsecured notes are really challenging because you can't always track how much equity you have in the business if you're just borrowing money all over the place. So your company may only have like, $1 million in equity, and then you have $1.2 million in debt, unsecured, which is a bad situation to be in. So tracking is a lot easier if you put it against the property. But there's all the different ways of how you can do some, and those are just some of the ways. There's lots more ways.
Yeah, like you can
borrow and lend money.
You can create funds like you have to get a certain classification, and you can get like to create a fund that people can invest in that fund, and then they have to sign a bunch of documents saying that they're investing in a fund. They know they can lose their money and all that kind of thing. But I like what you said there. I like the idea of, especially for somebody starting out, do only secured loans so that people know, hey, your investment is backed by real estate. Now, I can't guarantee that real estate value is going to stay up. There's always a chance you could lose your money, be honest with people, but at least it's backed up by real estate. So I love that to start off with. Thank you so much for that answer.
Yeah, absolutely. There's other things that you can do where, let's say you have let's say Heidi and I want to do a loan together, and we want to lend you money, Tim, and she's got 50,000, I got 50,000, we're gonna do 100,000. We could do one note where she has 50% and I have 50%, and we lend it to you on one note.
That way you're both in first position and you split.
Yeah, we could both be in first position. That note can be in first position. We don't have to start an LLC together. We could start an LLC together and take that LLC and lend to you. So there's lots of ways to do this. Don't get caught up in all the different ways to do it. My biggest thing is get some experience. Do a deal. Get somebody to fund one of your deals. Yep. Get that first position and work with the title company. Like the title company, if you're like, I got to do all this paperwork, the title company will draw up your note and mortgage for you and put it against the property for you and record it all and secure it all and do it all. There's probably a small fee for that, but it's totally worth it. Let them, because they have their attorney draws it up. And so I recommend using your title company, your attorney, your escrow company, and then just go in and say, hey, I got this private money lender. He's got like $200,000. He wants to lend it at 6%. Can you help me? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. They sit down and they draft up all the paperwork. They might ask you some questions like, hey, what kind of payments is he going to have? And you're like, I don't know. I didn't ask him that. When is the note going to be due? I don't know. I didn't ask him that. What are the penalties if you go past that we need to, I don't know. I didn't think about talking to him about that. So they'll help you work through all that stuff. It's very easy.
That's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Heidi Cheslow, you're on with Bill Allen. What's your question?
Hey Bill, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Heidi?
Good. I'm great. I'm great. I had a similar question, but I'm going to refocus it a little bit more toward your relationship. So it sounds like you scaled very quickly, but in the beginning, when you were establishing relationships with the people that were going to, you're building capital with, when you were first starting, were you sort of doing it one by one and keeping them abreast of the project? I mean, how involved did they like to be? And I'm assuming you're building this relationship as you continue to return the money on time and have successful projects. You're building that trust, right? So that you're getting to bigger and bigger things. But how'd you do it in the beginning? And like how did that grow to where you are now?
Okay, that's a great question. So in the beginning, my first deals were 50-50 joint ventures with a guy in California that had money.
Okay.
So the first thing that I did was there was a guy, I joined that mastermind group for 25K. I had done 2 houses before that. Those houses were funded by a family member that I raised capital. And I also took a loan for my 401k. So I took a loan, $50,000 loan for my 401k, and then a family member put in some money on a first position note at like 6% interest. So I did that. And then I wanted to scale up like you talked about. So I met a guy in this mastermind and he had money, but he didn't want to do the work. And he was in California and I was in Pensacola, Florida at that time. So I was in the Panhandle and I could buy a house for like 100K and put 30K into it, sell it for like 225. And so I started buying at the auction sites, but I needed cash right away. So when you buy at the auction online, you got to like wire the money that day or the next day. So he agreed to do this deal. We did joint ventures together. We didn't start our own business together. So we did these JV agreements, joint venture agreement. And he funded everything. I paid for like the utilities, the lawn mowing, little knickknack stuff that I didn't want to bother him for. But he paid for all the draws for the contractor and all the purchase of the house. And then we split everything 50-50. I did that like 6 or 7 times until I realized that I could raise money and pay a lot less than 50% of the profits. And so then I kind of moved over to start raising money. And so I bring that up because in the beginning, like we do kind of just, it's like we don't need to raise, you don't raise all your money at 4% or 5%. It like whatever I could do to get the deal done, I wanted the experience. And that taught me that, hey, there's a whole nother world out there raising money. And then so what I did was, so for him, I don't subscribe to the, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of information and go overboard or give you nothing. I'm going to ask you what you want. So like I asked him, how much information do you want? Like what kind, and if he's asking me questions, it's telling me I'm not giving him enough information. So we're constantly training each other of how we want to be dealt with. And then, so as I started like scaling up the relationships and have like more lenders, what I would do is I would send a monthly email to my entire lender list or potential lender list. So I started building a database of emails and phone numbers of people that were interested in lending because I'd make all these Facebook posts. I started this, I created something called the 500K challenge about 4 years ago. So I started making all these videos and things like that about raising money, and people would come in and be like, oh, I'm interested in that. Send me a message. So I'd put them on my kind of, it was a Google sheet, nothing fancy. And then I'd copy those emails, blind CC everyone, and send an email of just what's going on with the company. Like, hey, this month, it was a case study of a project we did. It was a case study of a lender that made a certain amount of money. And it was designed to get people to understand what we're doing, be engaged, and also get interested in making money with me. And I would get constant replies like, oh man, I can't wait to do this, or I'm still saving up money to get involved, or oh, finally it's like, okay, I'm interested in funding one of these projects. Those returns look great. And just like if I hired a COO or I hired an employee or we bought another house or like whatever we were planning on doing, if we did a quarterly meeting, I would just put it in that email every month to them. And then the other thing that I did was I created a business Facebook page, and then I hired a girl locally to go around to all the houses. And for $12 an hour, she would just take some video in the houses and talk about what we were doing. And so she would go around because we were like flipping a bunch of houses at that point. And so I didn't want to keep like having people message me or call me to ask me what's going on with their house. So I would tell them like what house was theirs and to watch the Facebook group for when her name was Dana, when Dana would go to the meeting. It didn't hurt that it was like some of my family members and pilots and mostly guys. And this was like a good looking young girl that was like going around the houses, like videotaping. So my uncle was like, dude, I love watching the updates of my house. So that helped. So it was like those kind of things that I started doing. I'm very big in systems and processes. So I've just built a system to reduce the amount of workload that it would take for me. So if they ever had a question that they would send to me, I'd be like, hey, did you watch the video that Dana made last week of the house? They're like, oh no, I forgot about that. I'll check it out. So it just like completely removes me from the process. And then if they have something specific that they wanted to talk to me about, then I talk to them. I still I don't have my phone number next to my name like all you guys do, because I hate talking on the phone. Like I hate it. I hate talking on the phone. The phone drives me crazy. The text messages, the emails, the Instagram messages, the Voxer messages. It's just like I have hundreds of people that message me every single day, and it's just like overwhelming to the point where I can't keep up. So I want to try to build a system and a process that can drive a large group of people to fund these things and get enough updates. And then if they ever reach out, they're not getting enough, then I know that person might need a little bit more. But like an engineer probably wants like all the numbers and all the data of exactly what's going to happen with the house and look at the spreadsheets. But can you imagine giving like an engineering like spreadsheet to somebody who has no interest in seeing that? That would actually probably get them not to invest. Mm-hmm. So I'm very big on upfront trying to figure out what kind of person I'm talking to so that I can anticipate the amount of information that I need to give them to close the deal. Right. So don't treat everybody the same.
Yeah, so much the upfront. That was super helpful in understanding, like, just to find out what they need, what their needs are, and then put it all out there for people to see and follow. So
yeah, same thing goes with like managing your investor. That's like investor relations and management is I talk to everybody on my investor list like they're already investing with me. Mm-hmm. And so like it's just a matter of time before they do. And so I'm like, hey, investor team, like it says investor team at the top. And it's like Blackjack Real Estate had an awesome quarter this quarter. We did X, Y, and Z. And like I give them the update. And then at the end I say, hey, there's a lot of you guys on this list that I haven't heard from in a while. Can you just respond to me and let me know what's going on in your world right now? And so that was like the magic sauce that I had in those newsletters that I was doing. Is at the end, I would get people that would reach out and respond and tell me about their kids and tell me about what's going on in their life. And what they would say in there is they would feel the need to tell me when they were going to invest with me. They update me about that. They're like, hey, we really appreciate it. I read all of these. And because you never know who's reading them, right? And so I would highly encourage you guys to figure out how to get people to respond, reach out to you, and talk back to you. Instead of just talking at somebody, talk with them. And what that showed me is like some people were really engaged, some people were really not that engaged. And it gave me kind of like a cold, warm, hot type list of who's probably likely to invest going forward without having to talk to them on the phone.
No phone calls. I'll remember that.
It's just my thing, you know? A lot of you are like really good on the phone or really good with people or really get filled up by talking to people and getting excited. And like you could talk on the phone all day. Like, oh my gosh, it's just my personality. It drains my batteries. Like I'll do it. I'm on here for, I don't know how long we're going to be here for, as long as you guys need me on here. But I've been doing this all day. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, whew, I need a little break. Like I need to just have some alone time. It's just the way I am.
All right. Well, I'm going to appreciate your time and pass it to the next person. But I really do appreciate all of this is all super, super helpful, especially on the front end of things to put some of these things in place. So
good.
Greatly appreciated.
Heidi, thank you so much.
Sure thing.
So every time I give a presentation, so the biggest stage I've ever spoken on is 5,000 people. It's an event called Funnel Hacking Live, Russell Brunson's event. I was on his stage, 5,000 people out there a couple years ago. And I was not a good speaker. Like I'm very bad early on. I was not good at like clarifying a message or putting things together or commanding the room or working the stage. And so I hired a coach like 5 years ago when I bought the company, Seven Figure Flipping. I hired this coach. His name's Walter Bond. He's a phenomenal public speaker. He was a basketball player turned speaker in the Public Speaking Hall of Fame. And what he taught me was he said, there's 3 parts of a room. You work the left side, the middle, and the right. And what you do is you pick somebody on the left side, in the middle, and the right, and you talk, it looks like you're talking to everybody, but you have to find somebody that you gain energy from. So anytime I do one of these presentations, I really only look at like one person. So like I'm trying to like look around, make eye contact with all of you, but really I'm only looking at Heidi. And it's not because she's like good looking or a woman. It's the fact that Heidi is shaking her head yes. Like the whole time I'm talking, Heidi is doing this. Like she's into it, she's taking notes, she's so engaged that I am focused on that. And so JJ, I see exactly what you're saying, like super nice, but like also so engaged, like camera on, those kind of things, because it gives me energy. Like I need people that give me energy. Can you imagine going into a room and like talking to somebody who is just like sitting there? You don't even know if they're like frozen or something.
Yeah.
So to me, like Heidi, I really appreciate the level at which you're playing on this call because it's helping me be better at what I do. So. And that doesn't discount like any of the rest of you that are not like shaking your heads or totally into it. It's just like every call, like I just tee off. There's one person that I grab to, and this is not only a story to make Heidi feel good or edify JJ's comment, but it's for all of you to understand that once you get to a point of having to do this, it's like if you can find that one person that gives you energy and look away from that person who's like on their phone in the audience the whole time or on their computer or not paying attention or like angry, like it's totally going to change the way that you show up for people. You're able to give like 120% instead of like 80%.
Yeah, and to that same note, Bill, for those that are on this call, whether they're watching on YouTube or they're on live, it's when you guys get onto a Zoom call, have your camera on, be engaging. As Bill says, we can call it, Heidi shaking her head, but it's a matter of being animated and reacting and moving about. And as Bill says, let people know that you're actually there. Try to not just be, even if the camera's live, not just sitting there in a frozen manner. But like I always say, it's about how you present yourself. And
yeah, it's really important. Like I'm telling you what, you get on a call, like I've been on some Zoom calls with some really people that I want to know, I want to get to know, I want to have as a mentor, I want to be in their communities, I want to speak on their stages. And I'll tell you what, if you play all out, they will not forget you. Like if you're there, like I won't forget Heidi from this call. Tim's background is very interesting. It's very interesting. It stands out. He's got his TTP shirt on. Like that kind of stuff stands out. The folks that have their camera on, they're playing, like it's important. It really is. I just did a 3-day Zoom call for kids, and the kids that were like camera on, playing all out, they're the ones I called up. There's the ones I looked at their ads when they're selling stuff online and like gave them a whole coaching and stuff like that. Like the kids that had their cameras off, like I don't even know who was there. There were like 300 people on there. I have no idea who had their camera off. They're on screen 3, 4, 5, and 6. So like you can believe when I'm on a video call with Tony Robbins, my camera's on and I'm doing backflips and jumping around and stuff like that. I want him to call me out, So anyway, little side note that maybe help.
Very huge. Hey, we'll take one more question, then we'll kind of roll into wrapping things up a little bit. Edgar, you're on with Bill Allen. What's your question?
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you, JJ. Hey, thanks, Bill, for doing that 7-figure flipping for the boys. That was pretty awesome. I think my boys.
Oh, were they on the challenge this week?
I'm gonna call them out because I'm pretty sure they had their cameras off.
Oh, they had them on or off?
Off.
Oh, that's messed up, man. Even after I told them every day, turn your camera on. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, thank you for doing that. My oldest is 14, so he's trying to get some stuff out of the shed and put it in Facebook Marketplace. So, but thank you. In regards to the real estate space, we talk about capital raising, and it sounded like you were raising capital for your projects, right? But
yep.
What are your thoughts about those capital partners, people that raise capital for other people's deals? What has been your experience, or how would you structure those type of deals where you could come in as a capital partner and use that as a leverage to fund other people's deals?
Yeah, so you're talking about raising money from other people to then lend it out to other people's deals?
Yes.
Yeah, I have it's a challenge. So like I raise money right now for our apartment buildings that I have 2 partners with. So I'm the capital raiser, I do the investor relations, I do all that stuff. And so I'm a capital raiser for that, and legally I do it. So like I'm a general partner. I'm on all the calls afterwards. Like I have to be, we're constantly talking about what's going on. I'm in the membership agreement. I'm on the operating agreement. I'm in the meetings. If we're going to sell the project, we talk regularly, me and my partners. On the single family side or like non-security, non-LLC side, the challenge you run into is there's a little like money brokering. So you just have to, I'm just very careful with, like, I don't raise money from my family and then say, hey, Edgar, you got a deal. I'm going to make a spread on it, or I'm going to make a fee on it, or those kind of things, because there's a broker dealer relationship there potentially. So I would just encourage all of you to just understand that and how that works. There are like some different ways around it with like JV agreements or things like that, or how you're getting paid. I would just really encourage you to make sure that you're doing it legally, because it's not a big deal until it becomes a big deal.
Sure.
So like when somebody doesn't get paid back, so imagine, Edgar, I give you $100,000 because I'm your brother. And then Edgar, you go put your money in Heidi's deal. Heidi's deal goes bad and Heidi decides not to pay you back, Edgar. And then you call me and you're like, hey, I lost your money. And I'm like, I don't even know who Heidi is. Edgar, I'm suing you.
Right.
Right. And I'm going to bring the attorney in, and the attorney's going to be like, oh, you brokered this money. Oh, you made a fee for this. Oh, this is illegal. Like, so I always just look, I'm very much like, let me look at what the worst case scenario is and figure out how to protect myself up front. So my advice to you is just to understand that a little well. And I just kind of talk to an attorney to make sure that you're doing it right. Because I have a lot of people that raise money for other people's deals and they run a fund, but their fund is a security. And you know they have a broker dealer license in that state. I have a friend who's in California that raises money from other people and then lends it out as a hard money lender, and they have a broker's license, like broker dealer license, in that state. And so there's only certain states that they can lend in because of that. So they just found an attorney that worked out the documents and the agreements, and it's not hard or challenging.
So if I were to JV with the fix and flipper and say, hey, I'm going to be your capital partner, but I'm going to be your partner in this fix and flip, and we'll split the profit, that he would have his skill set of fixing and flipping properties, and I would have the skill set of bringing capital. That would be okay.
Is it your money or somebody else's money?
It would be somebody else's money.
Then I would just make sure that I'm legally covered to do that.
Okay.
That's my advice. I'm not a securities attorney. I am not. I don't raise money from other people, and I use my money, my IRA, my 401k, my personal money. If I raise money for other people, I'm not making so there's times where somebody's like, hey, I need $2 million tomorrow. They'll call me. And I'll be like, okay, I'll put in $1 million. And then I call my friend and I'm like, hey dude, I'm putting $1 million in, you put $1 million in. And he's like, okay, cool. I don't make any money on his $1 million.
Sure.
I make money on my $1 million. And then he makes the same amount of money that I make on my $1 million. And so when they send me the money back, I just split it. Like so they send his money to him, they send my money to me. I don't make money on his money. I'm not a broker. I'm not brokering his money. So that's just kind of where I sit. It's just my comfort level. Look, if you talk to like 10 SEC attorneys, 10 securities attorneys, they're going to give you 8 different answers probably. So like that's the biggest thing. It's just find the person that's going to represent you if you ever get in trouble, and figure out what you can and can't do.
Okay, awesome, Bill.
Which is not something that I do, so I don't feel like I'm qualified to give you the right advice on that. You know?
No, that's good, man. Thank you.
I see a lot of people doing it illegally. I can tell you that. So I just say be careful.
Yeah. Yep, appreciate it.
Edgar, thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, JJ.
Okay, Bill, we're going to wrap up. I usually have 2 more questions, but I want to ask, follow Edgar's question there about raising capital for other people. As far as getting an attorney, say it's something that someone wants to start raising money. Is there a particular is it not just a real estate attorney? Is it a security attorney? What type of attorney would one look for?
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to find somebody who is well versed in real estate and money lending. Like a securities attorney is probably a good one. There's a ton of them on social media that are in a lot of the circles that you guys are probably in with real estate. I would ask for a referral from somebody that you knew for sure. I'm really big on that. I want somebody that's somebody that I know, like, and trust also trusts. I wouldn't just take it from anyone. Potentially at your title company, they may have a recommendation for you. But oh yeah, Nick is great. Nick McGrew. Yeah, Nick McGrew is a great guy. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a smart dude.
he's here in Los Angeles. He's actually been one of my former guest speakers.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Nick's a great dude. Yeah, he would be great. There's a lot of people out there. I'd recommend I'd recommend asking for a referral and finding somebody like that that's in the real estate space that knows.
Nick was actually at the top of my list. So
Yeah. Nick's a great guy. He's a great
yeah,
option.
yeah. Hey, and I'll just throw this in. If you ever up for coming to LA for a Rams or a Chargers game, let's go. I've got season tickets. Nick and I actually went to I believe it was a Raiders game together last year.
Oh, nice.
So it's always,
yeah, I was a huge Chargers fan when they were in San Diego. I don't know who they are anymore.
well, they got a new coach now from Michigan and Harbaugh, and they got a pretty good quarterback. So if you're ever interested, brother, I got season tickets to the Chargers.
I'm always interested in going to football game. I'm a huge Harbaugh fan, just the other Harbaugh. I'm a huge Ravens fan. So
There you go.
that's nice.
Hey, so Bill, I got two last questions for you, and I think we know the answer to the first one. If people want to reach out to you and they want to follow up, maybe they want some information about the seven-figure flipping education program you have, or just a question for yourself, the best way to reach you would be through your Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah, just call me on the phone or shoot me a text. I'm just kidding. Instagram is a good spot. Yeah, because I still answer my own messages on Instagram primarily. We've spent the last year kind of growing that Instagram account and our YouTube channel for me. So if believe it or not, last year around this time, I think we had like 300 followers on Instagram. So I spent a lot of time kind of building that.
Hey, my last question before we break away. I've got a networking group. I'm always talking about the importance of networking, building relationships for the success of any investor's business. There are a number of education platforms out there on the horizon. Each of them have people coming to their education programs who are brand new investors or experienced investors coming and joining the Facebook community of any respective education program to learn the nuts and bolts. But it seems like most people aren't really leveraging social media to be visible within the community to market for assistance. In your opinion, as a successful investor, what is the importance of networking, leveraging social media for the success of your whether beginning or your experienced investor today?
Yeah, I use social media very heavily to raise money in the beginning. So it was a lot of posts on Facebook, and it was all Facebook. It was all 100% Facebook, actually. I was like, I'm a little older, mid 40s, and so I kind of grew up on Facebook. I didn't understand. I didn't watch YouTube. I wish I started that way earlier. I wasn't big. I didn't understand Instagram. It was like MySpace, then Facebook was like my kind of two-step. And all the money I've raised almost is on Facebook. I don't think that I've raised any money on Instagram yet. I made my first post on Instagram about an apartment building that we have that might be producing $500,000 or so, depending on how those people come in and what they decide to do. But it's really, really important. I built this thing called the 500K challenge a few years ago, and I've had people raise like $6, $7, $8 million in 30 days doing it. It's like a video course. It's probably the best thing. I believe it's the best thing I've ever created. And I've seen people just by going out publicly and talking about what they do with a little bit of video education, they've been able to raise a lot of money. And it's right in front of you. I'm telling you, like, you have no idea how much money is just sitting there dormant, waiting for you to provide an opportunity for somebody, not asking for a loan, but providing an opportunity for them to invest alongside of you. Because most of the people want to watch the TV shows, they want to watch the flipping shows, but they don't want to be on the flipping shows. So you guys are on the flipping shows or the landlord shows or the apartment shows, and they just want to sit around the table and tell other people they're flipping houses. And they can tell them that when they put some money in your deal. And that's the cool part. Like, they're just part of the cool kids club. And so social media is really important, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's the calling card right now. Like, the business card is dead. It's gone. So the reason why I'm building my Instagram and my YouTube account is because I do these interviews on YouTube in my cockpit of my airplane. And when I tell people that, I have this channel, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to the channel and see how big it is. And so if that channel has 100,000 or more subscribers, then I'll get better interviews. Right now, all my interviews are relationships. Heidi, Ed Reed, the safety for the Ravens, was in my airplane, and I got to hang out with him at the Super Bowl. So like I interviewed Ed Reed, the best safety on the planet ever in the history of football. And if anybody likes football, they know who he is.
Oh yeah.
And so like, and I have less than 10,000 subs. So once we pass 100,000 subs, people are going to be hitting me up to come in the airplane to do an interview. And it's already starting to happen. And Instagram, same way. Like when I step into a room and you have 1,000 Instagram followers, people don't think you're important. Now that's all vanity metrics. It's a joke. It really is a joke. But the thing is, if you look at a channel and it has 300,000 followers on Instagram and their videos are getting 1,000 views, that's garbage. That's a fake account. It's vanity metrics. Somebody paid a bunch of people in India or the Philippines to just follow. And if you look at an account like mine that has 22,000 plus followers and a video that we just posted has like 500,000 views, that's a growing channel that's organic. That every single video that we have has more views than followers. And so then you can really, once you start understanding social media, you can start seeing who's the real deal and who's not the real deal. And so understand it. It's really important, but you also have to see past the one number that's on there. And understand that took me a lot of work. Like it's not easy, but it's totally worth it. And right now I'm spending a lot of money to build something for the future. And so if I planted that seed years ago, I'd be way further along than I am right now. So my biggest advice to you today is to just start like right now. Start right now. Even and to do that, like it's cool to start now because you can be bad and because nobody's watching yet. So just start to understand your voice, start to learn what to say on there, because only your mom, your dad, and a couple of friends are going to watch in the beginning. But over time, it's going to become a lot better. You're going to get better. It's like, okay, JJ, I have to take like 2 more minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this. And this is something that Russell Brunson did with me. I thought was really powerful. Name a TV show, drop in the chat. What's a TV show that you've watched like all kinds of stuff? Like what's a series that you love on TV? Like a lot of people, like Game of Thrones is one I hear a lot. Like okay, Simpsons. Give me some like TV shows, series that you watch. Friends, yeah. Oh, Wonder Years. Oh my gosh, we got some. You guys are like as old as me. This is awesome. 2.5 Men. What about Breaking Bad? Have any of you seen Breaking Bad? Anybody raise your hand if you saw Breaking Bad. Brady Bunch. Oh my gosh, I'm in here with like a bunch of old farts like me. This is great. This is awesome. So Breaking Bad's one that comes up. Game of Thrones is one that comes up. These kind of things. Even maybe The Simpsons and stuff. So the question that usually gets asked is, did you see the first ever episode of that TV show live? Right? Did you watch the first ever episode live when it really came out?
Probably not, right?
Yeah, definitely not. Like Breaking Bad for sure. I mean, I probably saw it like 7 years after it ran. I think it was already done by the time I watched the first episode. And so the question is, why did you watch it? Like, why do you watch some of these shows? Well, somebody tells you about it. Somebody tells you that the show is really good. And then you start watching on the first episode, right? Or you might watch like a current show and be like, oh, I really like this. You go back and binge watch it all, right? Well, that's what happens on our social media too. Like in the beginning, nobody watches season 1 or season 2 or season 3 of the show. But then when they find something they really like, they go back and they start watching it all kind of unfold. I've seen people do this with podcasts. You find a podcast you really like, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to start on the first episode of that podcast and start listening. If you do that on my podcast, 7-Figure Flipping, you'll be like, this guy really sucked in the beginning. Like it was bad. The audio quality's bad. The guests are bad. I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. So I'm finding my voice. And along the way, like if you listen, so normally what happens is these people, like they show up and you're like, where did this person come from? Well, dude, they were practicing for like 7 years and nobody knew who they were until now. And now they look like they showed up out of nowhere, but they've been putting in the work for a long time. So my advice to you is like, oh my gosh, you guys are still putting in like old school TV shows. Full House. Oh my gosh, what's happening here? So nobody's finding you in the beginning, which hopefully relieves a lot of the pressure to have to be good when you start. You don't have to be good when you start. You just have to start to be good. And so that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you on social media is like, don't compare yourself to what we're producing, because I mean, that's like 10 years in the making, 8 years in the making. In 2020, I didn't know how to hit the live button on Facebook. And I created a challenge that forced me to hit the live button for 30 days straight. So my advice to you is just like, get going, because that's the calling card. Like your business card means like nothing right now. your Instagram account, your TikTok, your YouTube, your Facebook page, those kind of things. And as much as I hate it, like that's my business. Like if I'm putting a picture of my family on there, there's some business reason for me to be doing it. That's it. Like that's how I make money. That's my business. And I recommend you do the same. So
Huge. Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Bill, thank you so much. So many gold nuggets in this presentation. I call it a presentation, but interview or whatever you happen to say. I'll tell you, brother, I cannot thank you enough. I mean, you know, 22,000 subscribers. Wow, that's huge. And you know, I'm looking to get there. I'm just doing it day by day, video by video. You know, I'll get there soon. But as you said,
let me give you the 3 words. Let me give you 3 words that'll help you. Hypothesize, test, pivot. So that's what all of you should do. It's written like everywhere in my wall. It's ingrained in my brain. Hypothesize, test, pivot. A hypothesis is an educated guess of what you think will happen. So if you make a video, you need to have an educated guess of what you think it will do. Then put it out there and test it. And if it doesn't do what you hypothesized it would do, ask yourself why, make an adjustment and pivot from that. So you should constantly be changing. If you're putting out the same thing over and over, expecting different results, you're never going to grow. That 22,000 is in 1 year because and it took me, if you look at YouTube, it's like almost 10K. We were at 150 subs for 9 months. In the last 3 months, we've added like over 9,000 because it took us 9 months to figure out hypothesize, test, pivot over and over and over again. Just cycle and cycle and cycle of what works and what doesn't work. So constantly be changing. You should be doing this in your business. You should be doing it in your life. You should be doing everything. Hypothesize, test, pivot. Everything that I do, those 3 words. So
hey, if you guys are watching right now on YouTube, you're watching our presentation, the video, please like Bill's video. In the comments, please put what your takeaways were, what you found valuable. There's so many things to mention, but you know, just put some of your takeaways in there. You know, if you have a suggestion on how I can do better, how I can improve my product or what we're doing for our end, please put that in the comment section. We just want to continue to not only bring you a product, but a good product and improve it any way we can. Again, if you guys want to connect with Bill, it's at Bill Allen REI on Instagram. And you want to connect with myself, you can just click this little blue QR code here. It allows you to register for the group. And again, over here's my Instagram if you want to follow me on my website. You guys are on the call, do not go away. We're going to ask Bill a couple more questions before we let him run off. And if you're on the call, watch it on YouTube. Please look for more coming up from Flipside with JJ and follow Bill Allen on Instagram and look for 7-Figure Flipping. It is a phenomenal program. Bill's a phenomenal guy. I want to thank you all. And Bill, thank you so much for coming on today.
thanks for having me, JJ. It was awesome.
You're welcome, my friend. Everybody else, Bill will see them out in virtual reality, right? Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
That's right.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us, guys.